Hi, I'm Rhonda with the Stitch in Time Embroidery Designs, and today we're going to walk you through stitching out one of our in the hoop Christmas gift tags. They're these cute little gift tags made out of stiffened felt and glitter heat transfer vinyl. They stitch up quickly and easily. The set contains a Merry Christmas one with a tree, Happy Holidays with a gingerbread man, Season's Greetings with a Christmas stocking, and Let It Snow with a little snowflake. All of them have a plastic pocket on the back that you can slide in a gift card or a to from card or some cash. Who doesn't like cash, right? Anyway, they stitch up nice and quick. You can tie them to a package, tie them to the Christmas tree, whatever you guys dream up. They're cute, they're reusable, and they're a lot of fun to make. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you everything you need. Okay, so just like all of our other designs, you're going to get a PDF document that shows the information on each design, a supply list, and then step-by-step instructions with photos for each of the designs in this design pack. You can print this out, you can just pull it up on your computer and look at it. Either way, it's yours, you have it to refer back to, or you can just watch me in this video. We're just going to stitch out one today, but they're all pretty similar. You start out with a small 4x4 hoop. They all fit in this 4x4 hoop, and we just hooped one piece of like a medium weight tearaway stabilizer. Just make sure it's nice and tight in the hoop. You're going to need 2 pieces of stiffened felt. I haven't tried this with regular felt, but you can probably get regular felt and just iron it with spray starch or spray some kind of stiffening agent on it and let it dry. Haven't tried that yet, but you can. I order stiffened felt in packs from Amazon. And I'll put the link below this video. I get them in packs of 15 of each color. Pretty sure you can get them in an assorted pack too, but I use it for so many different things. Felties and just all kinds of things that I have a lot of felt like this here in my shop. So anyway, we need 2 pieces of stiffened felt. We need a piece of glitter heat transfer vinyl, and when you use the glitter heat transfer vinyl, it's got a plastic carrier sheet on top. You're going to pull it off. We don't want to stitch through that. We're just going to stitch the vinyl. You need a piece of clear plastic, and I'll show you really quickly how to get this flat. If your plastic has any, folds in it and it's not nice and flat like this, I'll show you really quickly how to get that out. So that's pretty much it. And a piece of ribbon, of course, because you're going to want to, tie it to something. So I'm not really sure how wide this ribbon is. It might be 1/4 inch or 3/8 of an inch, something like that, but it's a small ribbon. And you will need something to punch a hole right here in the top. Let me grab, see if I can find the little tool that I use to do that with. Is this. I got it at Hobby Lobby. It says Memory Keepers on it, and I cannot remember what it is called, but I used the side with the bigger hole. This side right here says, I'm not sure what it says, 3/16 of a hole. I use that one because there's this little hole right here that you can see through for when you're putting the hole in, in it like that. So when you put that in there, you can see exactly where it's going to cut. Can you see down in there like that? So if you have something like this or a smaller hole punch, that would work. Of course, you can do it with scissors too, but this just makes it so nice and neat to punch that hole in there like that. Okay, so we have our supplies. We have this hooped, and we're going to stitch it out in just a few minutes after I show you how to iron your plastic flat. All right. Okay, so the back side of our In the Hoop Christmas gift tags has a little clear vinyl pocket. Of course, you don't have to make it of clear vinyl, but that's what we use, and that's what we have instructions for in our PDF instruction sheet that comes with this design pack. And sometimes when you cut that vinyl, it comes on a folded roll, or stash, whatever. If you folded it up, it tends to stay that way. So this is how we straighten it out so that we can use it on the back, where we'll lay flat while we're stitching it, and not buckle up like this. It's okay to iron it if you put, I just have 2 pieces here, but if you just put a layer of cotton fabric on top of it, and then pass a warm iron over it really quickly, it will get that fold out of it. And when it's hot, it's going to feel really, really thin. So if you just let it cool off a minute, kind of stretch it out flat again. If you iron it too much, it kind of draws up some. But in just a minute or two, when it cools off, it's nice and flat and usable. No, it's hard to see right here, but you see it doesn't have that fold in it anymore. So now we can easily use it for the back when we're stitching it on. So I just wanted to give you that little tip really quick about flattening out the vinyl that goes on the back side. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to be doing here is we are going to remove the plastic carrier sheet from our little piece of heat transfer vinyl. If you just bend it back a little bit, then you can grab it with your fingernail. Take that off. We're going to throw this away. We don't need it. We're just going to use this in place of fabric. Okay, so we'll just put it aside. We don't need that first. We're going to use it in a minute. And then the first thing that it's going to stitch, it's going to stitch a placement line for the felt, for the first piece of felt. And I'm using a darker color thread so that I can see it really good. It's going to stitch out some lines on the sides that are going to stick out further than the felt for when we need to use them as another placement line later. So use a thread color that you can see on this step. And then we're going to just move the hoop out a little bit because we need to place the felt. So we're going to place this felt, we're going to center it over there, over everything. I just kind of like to glance under it and make sure it's really centered. And you're going to notice that the stitching here and here sticks out a little bit further than your piece of felt, and that's what you want. You want it to stick out further like that. And we're going to tape it in place so that it stays where it belongs while we're stitching. Those placement lines right there, or for when we put the little plastic pocket on the back, it'll let you know exactly where that plastic pocket goes. So now we have this taped in place, and that should hold it while we're stitching. All right, so the first thing that's going to stitch is our tree trunk. So we're going to change the color to brown and stitch out that little tree trunk. If you want to put tape on the top and bottom, you can also, to make sure it doesn't move, but I'm using 3M Transform medical tape, and it usually holds pretty good in the hoop like this. Let me pull this out and trim it a little bit. This machine tends to make a knot on the end of the thread when it does that, and I'm not sure why. Okay, so let's let the trunk stitch. And this whole design just takes like 10 minutes to stitch out. And it doesn't have a lot of pieces, so it's pretty easy and quick to do. You can do a bunch of them in an hour or so without much problem at all. So much nicer than a paper gift tag too for Christmas. And like I said, they can be reused. Okay, so the next color that's going to stitch out is for the green, for the HTV. And just because I want you guys to be able to see it, well, no, you know what? We can go ahead and use the green thread. Okay, so we're just going to change to green. And just a word here, if you're going to trim the heat transfer vinyl away with the scissors, the glitter heat transfer vinyl is hard to trim with the scissors if you can't see where you need to trim. And if you use the same color thread as the vinyl like I'm doing right here, it's really hard to see because it's just so sparkly. So if you want to trim your vinyl like you would fabric, then I would suggest using a different color thread for the next couple of steps, just to make it easier to see. But what it's going to do now is it's going to stitch a placement line for the heat transfer vinyl. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to scooch this out a little bit and place our heat transfer vinyl in place. And you can use fabric if you want. If you don't have heat transfer vinyl or you prefer to use fabric, you certainly can. But this is going to be so pretty with this glitter vinyl like this. And you don't have to iron it down either. I know it's heat transfer vinyl and you can iron it to make it stick, but these are not washable items, so I'm not even going to bother ironing them. Okay, so now it does have a tack down stitch, so it's just going to stitch a running stitch all around the outside edge of the tree. And see how you really can't see that at all? That's why I said if you want to trim at this step, you might want to use a thread color that you can see really well, but with heat transfer vinyl, you don't have to. If you were using fabric right here, you would be able to see that step that it just stitched a lot better. But we're going to tear it away after, so I'm not going to worry about a different color thread now. And now the next step, step 5, is going to stitch the satin edges of the tree. And that's just going to take a couple of minutes. Let's just get in a little closer there so you can watch. Who's starting on Christmas gifts? Is anybody starting on that already? It's just August here when I'm filming this. August the 9th, so it's a little bit early. Every year I say I'm going to start on Christmas things a lot earlier, and every year I'm always doing it at the last minute. How about you guys? Are y'all the same way? Are you last minute people, or or do you get started early? Now, after it finishes the satin stitch, and we made this in a separate stitch, step 6 is going to stitch what I like to refer to as an insurance stitch. Since heat transfer vinyl can be torn away from the outside, sometimes it might kind of tear away a little bit from the inside too. That satin stitch that's going down right now might just kind of cut it a little bit. So to make sure that it doesn't come away from the inside, we have what we call an insurance stitch. And that's what's going to stitch right now. If you are using fabric, you can skip this step if you want. But what it's going to do is it is going to stitch a running stitch right on the inside of that satin stitch to hold down that HTV, and it's not right up against the satin stitch. It's just a tiny bit out from it towards the inside of the tree. And if you're using the same color thread, you won't really notice it, but you can see how it's stitching just a quick running stitch on the inside, and that's kind of what I've called it, is an insurance stitch. It's going to stop that heat transfer vinyl from coming up on the inside. Okay, so before we go any further, this is the step where we're going to remove the excess heat transfer vinyl. Sorry about the birdies in the background. We have 2 birdies in this house, and sometimes they're noisy. I'm just going to trim it a little bit just to make sure it's easy to tear away. See how easy that tears away? We just want to remove it all the way around. I'll go ahead and trim this little extra thread right here while I'm there. And let me see if I can get this. Be careful that you don't pull it completely away from right here. At the top is where the little star goes, so it's going to cover that up a little bit. But there we go. Now we see how easy that was? I don't have to trim it with scissors. Okay, so if you have any little pieces left here on the outside, you can use the tweezers to get those out if you want, but you don't have to right now. All right, so the next step is going to stitch the ornaments on the tree. And I am just going to use red for that. You can use any color you want. The ornaments do stitch all the same color. I wanted this to be a quick little project that was nice and easy for Christmas. We'll trim this a little shorter again and let the ornament stitch out. All right, I think that's the last little ornament to stitch. And then the next step is step 8. That is going to stitch the star on the top of the tree. So let's get that. I'm going to stitch a yellow star because I'm using white felt. So if I can't do a white star on top of the tree, it won't show. All right, so let's get that little star stitched up there. I probably should have trimmed that heat transfer vinyl just a little bit more under the star, but it shouldn't show. The star is going to cover it right up. And then we're going to stitch Merry Christmas. We'll do that in a pretty red. Again, not sure why this machine knots that thread. And that's going to take a few minutes to stitch out. That's probably the longest part to stitch is the lettering on this one, on this particular one. And they're all similar. The only one that is a little bit different is the one with the Christmas stocking, because it actually has two pieces of heat transfer vinyl. One for the bottom of the boot and the other one for the top. So you're going to have two parts, just like I did to do this one. Isn't that cute? But the other ones just have one piece of heat transfer vinyl each. For the snowflake, I used white glitter heat transfer vinyl. And then for this one, I used, I don't know what that color is, I can't remember, but it's almost like a light cinnamon color or maybe a copper. I forgot. I'm using Caesar heat transfer vinyl. That's S-I-S-E-R. It is pronounced Caesar. And I'll see if I can put a link below this video also to a place where you can possibly find that. The clear vinyl, pretty sure I just ordered that on Amazon. It's not very thick. It might be like 6 gauge or 10 gauge. I'll see if I can remember, but it's not going to be that important. As long as it's thick enough to hold without tearing, you should be fine with that. I think somebody in my Facebook group said they used shower curtains to do this. I actually bought vinyl by the yard, clear vinyl by the yard on Amazon. I know our Walmart used to actually have clear vinyl in different thicknesses when they sold fabric by the yard, but they don't do that anymore in mine. But they had these giant rolls of clear plastic that you could get for, like, you know, covering a table or whatever you had that you needed clear vinyl for. You used to be able to find it easily like that. You probably can at Joann's or Hobby Lobby or any place that sells a clear vinyl like that. And just grab whatever thickness you want. This is probably anywhere from 8 to 12 gauge. I really don't know. It's just in my stash. All right, so we have Merry Christmas stitched. Looks great, everything's perfect. And now we're going to remove the hoop from the machine, but we're not going to unhoop it. Let me back the camera up just a little bit to make this easier to see. Okay, so what we're going to do at this point is we're going to take the other piece of felt and we're going to center it over the back, and you can kind of see through this a little bit to see where your other felt is, so we're going to do that right over the other one. We're going to tape it in place to make sure it stays where it belongs. Don't press too hard because we don't want to loosen the stabilizer in the hoop. If you have one of Embroidery Garden's hoop and press pads, they work perfect for things like this, which reminds me, I probably need to get a 4x4 size for my little hoops. They're great because they fit inside the hoops when you turn them over like this, and you can press down on them and it has the support underneath there like that. Okay, so we have the felt, and then we're going to put the clear plastic vinyl on. Let me see which way it goes. Probably goes this way maybe. And we're going to line it up with those, let me see if you can see it better like this. Can you see here and here? Or those little lines that we stitched in step 1. You can see them on both sides. That's what you want to line your plastic up with. The clear plastic, that's where it goes. I'm not sure I cut my plastic the right size, but this should work because it comes all the way down to the bottom of the felt, which we want. And I can make it even with those lines right there. We're going to tape it in place to make sure it stays where it belongs on the back of the hoop. I'm going to tape it at the top and the bottom too, just to be on the safe side. We want everything to stay in place. I like this tape because if the machine stitches through it, it's just fine. Okay, we're going to turn it over and put it back on the machine. And I am going to switch to white thread. Actually, I might leave this one in red just so you can see it. I actually like the look of this where it's all the same color on the edges. Because if I don't cut really even all the way around, you can't tell as badly as you would as if I used the same color, you know, if I used a different colored thread and then I don't cut the edges very evenly, you're going to see that right off the bat. But if you're using the same color thread as the belt, you know, you have a little boo-boo room there. You know what? I am going to go ahead and do white because I will get it to where you guys can see it. The only thing I have left to show you this is how to trim it and cut that little hole in it. So it's not a whole lot left. But I'm going to go ahead and use the white so I can use this in one of my gifts. That's why I like to wrap. Sorry about that. I just dropped the spool of thread on the floor. That's why I like to go ahead and match the thread for this step with, no, that was my microphone I dropped. I thought I dropped thread. Okay, so hopefully you guys still heard me a minute ago. Okay, so we're going to use the matching thread and I'll just direct this out even more. Alright, so it's going to stitch everything together. And it's going to stitch a circle right at the top that shows you where to cut the hole to hang it. So it's stitching that little circle, and I went around a couple times to help you be able to see it good. And then it's going to stitch all the way around to stitch all the layers together. The front felt, the back felt, and that front felt, the back felt, and the plastic on the back. And we're going around twice on here to make sure that everything stays together. Okay. And that's it. 10 steps, 10 minutes. And I'm stitching all this out at 600 stitches per minute. So see, the back is nice and neat. And so is the front. So let's bring it over to the cutting table and we'll trim everything, punch our little hole in the top, and it is done. Okay, so let's remove our tape. think we have more tape in the back here. And this tape can actually be reused a few times before it loses its stickiness. So if you want to stick it to your tape dispenser, you can reuse this stuff quite a few times before it loses its sticky. Alright, so we're going to pop it out. Grab some scissors, and you can use scissors or a rotary cutter for this, doesn't really matter. You want to cut it maybe about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, 1/4 of an inch, whatever you like to do. Just cut it all the way around. If you used a colored felt and you have this white tearaway stabilizer, you can pull out the tearaway stabilizer first if you want. And that way it might not show on the edges, but we're using white, so we're making this pretty easy. Alright, so I got it all trimmed out. Have a few little, tie in and tie outs on the back that I want to trim away. That thread right there. See how nice and flat our little pocket came out because we ironed it first. And then we have this. Hopefully you can see it. The little circle right there. It's easy to see in person. And I'm going to use this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that circle right inside of this. And I can see down in that circle. I'm turning it like this so I can see it because I have a camera right above. But I can see that, the stitches around the outside edge of that circle inside this right here. So I know I'm not going to punch through the stitching there. And I am just going to press down and cut that little circle out. Sometimes it doesn't get the whole thing, so you just have to cut it a little bit. And there I have a nice little hole that I can put my ribbon through. Just grab any kind of ribbon that you like, a little narrow ribbon or some cording, and thread it through there. And you have a nice little name tag where you can, like I said, this fits gift cards, cash, a to and from card you can make on your computer, whatever. Nice, quick, and easy. And it comes 4 in a set. So you get all 4 of these in the set. Like I said, the Christmas stocking, the Christmas tree, the snowflake, and the gingerbread man. So hope you enjoyed the video. Would love to see if you stitch these out. Please post them in our Facebook group or send them to me in an email, however you like. We'd love to see them. Have a great day.